Hey everybody, welcome back to Three Swords Productions. Tonight we have an incredible matchup for you. Is Rob Lucci versus
Law, baby.
Law, right. So in the previous video we did Katakuri versus Whitebeard. Tonight we're bringing you Law versus Rob Lucci. Now these are two of the top meta decks and their potential counters. So thanks for joining us this week, and we have a lot more live streams and videos to post as we go through the weekend. So stay tuned, and if you're not already, like and subscribe to the channel.
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
Let's go.
All right, so we have Alex on Rob Lucci's side, and Nathan took Law side. So Nathan potentially playing Law, which is the counter to Katakuri. So we decided, hey, what counters Law? We think Rob Lucci is going to do a good job of that. So tonight we brought that to the channel. And you know, after you play through one game of Law versus Rob Lucci, how do you feel?
It's an interesting matchup. Obviously, Rob Lucci kind of is the mid-range of the meta right now, sitting almost everything around its 5 Dawn characters and just kind of making 2-for-1s along the way whenever it can, which can be difficult. When you're able to make a board and mess up somebody's board, it's gonna hurt the Law player probably the most, where they're trying to just make a board of small things, but eventually my bodies become good.
Right, like it's gonna be really hard for you to escape. You know, you're playing your 5 drops, and that feels like the most successful thing that you're doing on the table.
Yeah.
And Rob Lucci just plays Sakazuki, but along the way, they're also playing Kaku. They're playing, you know, cost reducers. They can really hit you in that 3 cost or lower range.
Yeah.
And that is unfortunately where Law is living. So we're gonna see a brand new come down. Look at the top 4 cards, 3 cards.
Yeah.
3 cards.
Also, the a whiff there is unfortunate, but yes.
Okay. Well, that's as Law. That's what you're going to need to see, your opponent not being able to get that free value on you.
Yeah.
Although brand new, still being, you know, an attacker against some of your characters that, you know, unfortunately, if you have to leave Bonnie tapped, you know, that brand new is going to come after it. So,
and this is definitely also a good point to the Rob Lucci deck, is that you have 2 new searchers in the brand news and the Spottoms. So those are definitely also going to be a problem of, hey, they can now pressure the early game when the Black previously struggled a little bit.
all right, and we're going to see Law have like one of the most aggressive starts that Law can have, where turn 2, we've already got 5 characters. Turn 3, we're going to have Law abilities online. And brand new with that early miss, so Rob Lucci already behind. If Rob Lucci is going to lose to Law, this is going to be the matchup we're going to want to see it. So really, this will be a good benchmark for how well Rob Lucci actually performs in this matchup. Can it come back from this insanely fall behind start?
Yep. Now that Law's online, it looks like the blocker Law is in hand there, so we'll have that to put in here for some good value. And it's just rationing out what should the Dawn look like for the attacks. I think here, attach 2k to the Otama. You can use a Makino to pump up the Otama, and you got a nice 5k attack in there.
Right, so we're just looking for things that we want to bounce back to our hand here. So we're looking for a 5k attack here with the Otama, and of course Rob Lucci already missing a resource from the brand new. It's just going to take that, go down to 4. Law already sitting at 3 life here, so kind of, like I said, fall behind here. Law comes down, picks up the Otama. We've got Makino back in hand, and see, Curly to Dan is what Trafalgar Law puts into play. We're going to look at the top 5 cards. Out of 1 drop to our hand, it's going to be Searcher Nami. That feels really powerful.
Yep, get the nice Searcher value right back.
Yep.
Good attacker in the future with the Makino as well. And then 2 Dawn left. That probably just means there's going to be 1 7k attack. Don't think there's anything that you really need to add to the board at this point.
Ooh, 4 blockers on board already. Rob Lucci, if you are good against blockers, we are going to need to see that ability shine. And with another Tony, you know, you've got the Capone gang in hand, so that is a 5th blocker already. We've got, you know, just a wall put up. And Rob Lucci now with 7 Dawn, gonna look at the hand, see Sakazuki, right? Exactly what I said. You know, this is kind of the perfect counter. Law feels very powerful when it's able to put its really solid 5 drops into play. Sakazuki countering that so easily is gonna make this matchup feel a little bit draining for Trafalgar Law. We're gonna see Rob Lucci come across for 6 and then potentially reconsider that as he used the Dawn that had already been spent. But
playing a lot of Luffy, I think.
6k comes across inevitably, and we're going to see a block. Now, that is the first block. Blue Note coming sideways. That's a lot of confidence that Blue Note has. Usually it wants to be a blocker, but in this matchup, hey, we don't really need to block. We are the aggression because we do have the end game here.
Yep. And I think that's a good identification by Alex as well. there's definitely times when he had a Dawn open there, he could have just made that a blocker in the way and made it obnoxious, but instead identifying that this was something important to attack the life down. And I did ultimately have to take a life that turn, so it did end up being good. Two blocks would have been two blockers down would have been difficult. So, not to mention the blocker law that happened in the way. But in the meantime, looks like we played a Nami. Options to hand. I'm lacking a little bit on the top end, so I think adding Zoro here is an option to be able to pressure my life, or to be able to pressure life on some following turns is going to be important. Our opponent is still at 3, I believe, so difficult there. And then optioning, what are we going to be putting in with our Law ability this turn? I have an X-Drake in hand, and I have a Zoro in hand. It seems pretty easy for me to attack with one of the Searchers, probably only the Dawn, because Nami came in this turn, and be able to flicker that one back out for the X-Drake in the way, so that we have a good body on the following turn, and then we're really able to pressure down what's going on. I really don't want to attack the Blue No either. Attacking the Blue No would just give my opponent another character back, something like the Fukuro, that would also just be obnoxious in the future, so...
Fukuro would definitely be a problem, but so the problem with attacking the Blue No here is that your opponent can easily leverage the cards in their hand to kind of make you waste attacks, and that's going to feel really, really bad.
Yeah, and as Law, we're using a lot of Dawn to be able to do our effects, so you don't have quite as many high power attacks that you might possibly have in other decks. So.
Yeah, well, on top of that, Rob Lucci is going to be taking out a lot of your characters every turn, which requires you to reinvest all your Dawn. That is something that Law is not really used to having to do, as they are pretty efficient with their Dawn usage, so now being asked to reinvest means that your attacks are unfortunately very weak every turn.
Okay, yeah, I think I was just considering a little bit if there was a Zoro line, because there's I could have played Zoro, attack with the Zoro, put the Zoro back in my hand, put X-Drake down, but ultimately I like an attack for 7k, I think, than 2 5ks. And playing the Brook here leaves something untapped that I can't be attacked on either.
Now, speaking of needing to reinvest Dawn against Rob Lucci here, Brook is one of those cards that does that for free. It is just your investment broker. Every turn, if you can bounce that Brook back in hand, that is basically 2 Dawn that you have access to for free, as it will reinvest into attacks, which is what you're going to need in this matchup. So quite smart to put the Brook on the table. We will want to see that flicker back to hand, though, as I think that's going to be the tool that you need to generate the advantage to get back in this game.
I definitely think so, too.
And X-Drake comes down. Unfortunately, X-Drake just not going to be doing it in the Rob Lucci matchup specifically. This is where it is at its weakest, as a lot of the targets in the deck you just can't even hit. And that's kind of what makes Rob Lucci feel so powerful with the new Fukuro card, as well as the old Borsellino. It's just impossible to actually KO those characters with card effects. You're going to need to attack them.
And here comes the Isho, and there's just no way to really play around it in Law. I think you just kind of have to accept that at some point it's going to be good against you, because...
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what you're doing the entire game is on play. I look at the top 5 cards, I add a card to my hand, and the next card that I play, on play, I'm going to do the same thing. So you're just the card advantage engine, and unfortunately, Isho's hungry for those engines, and he's just going to gobble them all up. And I think that's the hand gesture that we saw Alex perform when he played Isho, was gobbling up all your engines. I have no idea what that was. It was kind of sus, but we're gonna move on.
Yeah.
And attack for 6 with Rob Lucci coming across. You do have a couple blockers left, but they are getting thin. And that Sakazuki 8, the biggest one, and we're unfortunately looking at Capone in hand being the last one.
These attacks for 6, while generally you're not attacking for 6 by option a lot, by Alex doing it so many times, I have run out of 2Ks at this point. It is getting more and more difficult to get out of specifically 6Ks. So it's starting to add up for sure. That's
the last blocker gone. So we have one more Tony Chopper there, and we know kind of one blocker is where Rob Lucci puts you in the kill range. So one life. Our options are getting thin on the Law side. And what's impressive is that he did have that fall behind start, and your start was very strong, but just card effects, playing insanely large bodies and not really having to be concerned about your attackers because of all the removal that he has access to. It has looked like a very clean answer to the Law start. Yeah,
it felt like the Sakazuki turn was a big flip, right? Be able to kill your thing that was just big, but instead I have the big thing now.
Right, yeah, because, I mean, like I said, playing Law, playing your 5 drops, those are the feel-good epic moments of playing, the red-green leader, and just when you do that and your opponent answers it with one card, plus that one card discard, but Like I said, Sakazuki's just such a large body. They're really not even trying hard. They're not having to work for removal there. It just feels so oppressive.
I don't think that I can beat my opponent this turn specifically. With 2 life left, and we'd have to have 3 attacks get through. I don't think it's reasonable to try and go for a lethal attack here, especially when he's countering out of all my attacks. It's so obnoxious.
Yeah, he's holding his hand slightly off stream, so I'm not actually sure how many cards he has left in hand. You are also whittling him down, with those 5k attacks coming across. Like, very smart leveraging your bodies on board this turn, just kind of giving up on the law plan and saying, hey, I've got one way to beat you, and it's you don't have blockers on the table, and, maybe I can hold you off for 1 turn. I can put you to 1 this turn, and maybe I can come in for lethal next turn. So that's actually a really smart kind of turnaround there in your game plan. Suddenly you're the aggression. But will it be enough to be able to hold him back this turn? It's gonna be really difficult to figure that one out.
Yeah, definitely. And this is also an identification that a lot of blockers hopefully can hold off my opponent so that I can get through on the following turn. That was a slight misplay there. I played a blocker out and then wanted to use the law ability to put the Brook back in my hand. Brook being a 2k is pretty important here. But I should have played the Chopper out first and then switched it out for Capone Gang. So I did have 1 more Dawn I could have spent there. Just could have, I could have gotten a Radical Beam from life or something to help get out of what my opponent is doing here. So I think it's just better to have that 1 Dawn open. But instead I misplayed ever so slightly and had to spend it on playing out the other blocker, which is fine. So it looks like Alex is just determining what are the attacks going to look like. A lot of small attacks, a lot of big attacks, and yeah, coming in with Rob Lucci, I kind of want to use these blockers. It's weird. You want to use them early so that Rob Lucci has less effect towards the end, but at the same time, he's going to save all the big characters towards the end, so it's a little awkward in that. Another attack for 6k come across. We blocked 1, pitched out a 1.
2 cards left. I mean, a 6k attack looks pretty good. Like, you can do a lot of math based on that. We still have Rob Lucci ability that we haven't used this turn. So yeah, 6k attack either deals a damage or it doesn't, and I think you're fine with either result.
My hand isn't possible to counter out very much here either. I have the Zoro we know about, and I have, I believe, just a Don, so only 1k in hand. I get to establish whether I'm going to start blocking all of these or what I'm going to be doing.
And we should see the Rob Lucci ability happen probably now. Yep, there it goes. And we can discard Kaku. We don't need that card. Okay, we're going to keep it. I'm not sure why we're keeping that card, though. The 2Ks seem more effective, but yeah, at this point, it probably doesn't matter.
I don't think it matters really a whole lot, yeah. You're coming in for everything, so.
And that's an attack for 9k, so you're going to need both cards in hand, plus an additional 1 to get out of that. So that's definitely dealing damage or catching a Capone.
I'll take this one and hope that I, get like a Punk Gibson or something random here.
Well,
and
you're in a position now where you could actually get out of this. 9k comes across, and unfortunately, you needed 1 more 2k. But you don't have it. That's Zoro instead, and we're going to go back to the booth. That was kind of a good matchup. Like, I really actually enjoyed watching that because, it showcased the power of both decks, really, and, like, why they are tier 1 decks. From the Rob Lucci side, we saw a very slow start. And on Lost Art, we saw just, like, in this explosive beginning of the game. But what happened in the mid game was Rob Lucci started to pivot towards, like, really shutting Law out, and then the in game Law realized, hey, I'm not the Law leader anymore. I'm just some dirtily aggro deck. I'm turning my characters sideways, and you're gonna have to deal with this. And Rob Lucci almost could not do that. Almost just falling completely apart to that. It came down to basically a 2K or not from the Law side, and maybe playing Law against Rob Lucci is just going to come down to knowing exactly when to pivot, and the Law that we saw on that side definitely knew when to pivot. So
yeah, definitely strong to use the blue no on the aggressive side too. It can be easy to fall into those traps of, hey, this is a blocker card, I want to be blocking with this, but no, that and the Borsalino should probably be attacking. You need to get your opponent dead at some point, and giving them time is good for Law. So yeah, 100%. I think that's all good points from the Lucci side.
All right, guys. Well, like I said at the beginning of the video, we have a ton of more content coming out this weekend, tonight, tomorrow, and also probably Monday as well. So stay tuned. If you're enjoying Set 3 content, like this video and subscribe to the channel. We will catch you in the next one.